Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today let's talk about the market. The market actually is open for another hour as I'm recording this, unfortunately, or maybe not, I don't know. But the point is the fact that I'm recording it early because I am going out very soon, so I won't be home to record it as the market closes. So I figured better, early than just not uploading at all in this case. So let's talk about it and let's see what we can expect for next week. So I do expect Tesla to pull back a little bit here into close, and I don't expect it to close much higher or lower than around maybe 210. So assuming we close around 210, maybe we'll rally. I don't know. It's hard to say. It is OPEX day, which essentially means a lot of options are expiring, etc., 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 etc. But let's talk about it, all right? So Tesla, end of the day up, pretty much, relative to the market, performing kind of in line to the market, I would say, roughly, give or take, maybe slightly underperforming, but nothing, completely crazy, maybe just a slight underperformance. But end of the day up about, 2.5%, we'll say, probably ending around, 212, 211, something like that, maybe even as low as 210. But overall, it's not looking that bad, right? So let's talk about what we can expect moving into next week and, what we can see from there. So the first and foremost, the main thing that I just instantly see right now is, so there's a few bad things and good things. The good things, we'll start with the good things first, right? The fact that we didn't get back into this yellow channel, we did bounce off of it yesterday on that earnings, plummet, if you will, is a decent sign, right? The fact that we didn't really end back in it is a good sign in my opinion. So I do like the fact that we did not go back into the channel. We bounced essentially off of it again. So good sign there. Another thing that I really like to see is another bullish pattern potentially setting up here, right? So on top of the things I've talked about before in previous videos, like for instance, we have the RSI making higher, starting to make higher highs and higher lows, which is a great sign. It's above the median as well on the daily. So, it's looking like life is kind of, slowly trying to spring back into the stock, which is fantastic. Now, of course, we have more major earnings next week. I believe Apple's reporting next week, if I'm not mistaken. They are reporting on the 27th, which is next week, Thursday. I'm pretty sure Google is reporting next week. Yeah, Google's reporting on the 25th. So that's the Tuesday. I think even Amazon's reporting next week. On the 27th as well. So that's going to be pretty wild stuff, right? So, that can definitely affect the market, especially Apple. So, we'll see how that affects the market and how Apple does, because that, of course, will indirectly affect Tesla. But as I see it right now, I think up until then we might rally so that even if it does go bad, I don't think it'll be that bad. And what I personally see setting up on Tesla at the very moment, which is one of my personal favorite patterns, is a double bottom, right? I really like to see this kind of pattern. So if you go on, let's say the 3 hour, because it makes it a little bit, easier to see. So if you go on the 3 hour and you kind of zoom out and see the overall picture. So ever since we started falling, we have essentially went all the way down to this low here around, the 202-ish level, right? 203, came up to this area here, got rejected, slapped back down, and came back to pretty much the exact same level. And assuming this pattern holds, this usually means that we start getting the rally up. And I personally think this rally will most likely get us to around that overall price target I talked about, which is going to be towards this yellow line, which, again, the longer it takes, the higher the price target becomes as the line, of course, slowly increases in height, I guess, or like it ascends upwards. But, overall, to put it, simply, 245, 250, something like that will be the price target there. Now, this is, of course, the double bottom pattern, which, in my opinion, is one of the best patterns, right, that I personally like to see. It's, very, very reliable overall. Again, not financial advice, do your own research. But it's similar to the double top pattern. That's a bearish version of kind of what I talked about here, where, in fact, we potentially even had a triple top, right? This is the bullish version of it, right? But here you can see as we rally from here, we had a top, all around the same level, right? So that was like a triple top. Essentially, a triple top is a bit more of like a harder, there's a bit more weight to it, I guess, if you say that. So for instance, if we come back to this kind of 3-ish level on Tesla down here again, let's say we rally up to this level again and come back one more time or something like that, then, it really solidifies the support level, right? Being this, very low 200s area, 203, 202, whatever, this general level right here. However, what we want to make sure that does not happen is that we don't really go too far below this level that we already came down to, right? So essentially, it's kind of like 203, 2, ish level, give or take. You want to make sure that if we come down to this range, and especially if you come down to like 200, it gets bought up like really fast. You can see that every single time we have went below, even like 205, you can see there's a lot of long candle wicks at the bottom underneath 205, right? Which shows that, under this level and at this level, there's a lot of buying pressure, right? A lot of people are buying around these levels, right? So we're not like closing any, candles really too far down under there, especially even on the 1 hour. You can see here, same thing, right? We're just not really closing candles that low. And if it does, it gets bought up pretty quickly, including today, right? So that's a good sign. So essentially what you want to see to have this pattern form and play out its bullish formation, if you will, is not really go too far below 205. And if you do, you want to see the buying pressure step in fairly quickly, right? So that's kind of what I want to see there. So that's fantastic. That's looking great. The bullish divergences are forming, especially on the daily as well, which is just fantastic news. Exactly what I like to see. We have some beautiful gaps above us as well. We have a gap sitting all the way up here at 222, which of course is after the earnings, I believe, right? We also have the gap sitting all the way up here at 238. And if I'm not mistaken, we should have another gap all the way up here at 265. Now, I personally think the best case scenario is going to be filling this gap at 265. Will we actually fill it? I don't know. I'm pretty sure we also have a gap even over here at 288. Do we have a gap all the way at 288? Or do we fill it? Let me see here. It looks like we did fill this gap, actually. Yeah, it looks like we did fill this. No, we did not fill this gap. Sorry, I was looking at this one here. We actually have a gap all the way up at 287, which we have not filled as well. So we have a bunch of gaps above us. Like the absolute, like, my goodness, like, wow, that is insane. Best case scenario, somehow would be this gap fill right here. I don't think that'll happen. I think that's really ambitious. I personally think the somewhat realistic best case scenario will be this 265 gap fill. But I think personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we at the very least come up to this kind of 238-ish gap fill, like minimum, right? And potentially go even higher, maybe even again as close as somewhere around this kind of 250 level, which is my current projection and my current price target. Now, the bearish parts of Tesla is the fact that we are, of course, underneath this red line, which isn't great, right? That's not what you want to be seeing, unfortunately. But, it's not the worst thing in the world because we have come up above it several times already. So clearly it's not, as significant resistance as I maybe thought it would be. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. If we take a very quick look on the weekly, you can also see over here that there is this overall line over here that you ideally don't want to be breaking if you go like on the horizontal aspect of it, right? Which we are actually holding pretty well. So as long as we close somewhere around this general level, it's not looking that bad. In all honesty, it's actually not looking that bad. It's ideally above 210. As long as we can close this weekly above 210, it's really not that bad. And it's not looking that bearish just yet, right? Ultimately, so I would say that there's definitely some life left in the stock to get a nice little bit of a bounce coming in to maybe November or something like that. We'll see what happens with that, of course, though. But going back to the daily and taking a look at these major indicators that we want to see, the 21 EMA can definitely prove as some first initial resistance for us. Of course, we have the Bollinger Band with the white line now, of course, all the way down here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come up to the white line, potentially even fairly fast, honestly, and then to kind of dance around it, maybe go slightly above it. Which will pretty much bring us to my price target of around 245 to 250, but then probably come back to the white line, dance around that, and then from there we'll see how the structure forms and what we can expect to happen after that. But that's the first level I would be personally looking for. The 50 and the 200 are well above us right now, so there's no reason to even think about it. And then of course you have the 5 and the 10 pretty much sitting at the exact same spots that pretty much right at the red line, actually, that we want to definitely break above and hold above both of them days in a row, not just like one day, and get multiple closures like that in a row. Again, I have a 3-day rule. I want to see at least 3 daily candles closed above that and hold above that. That is to me ideal. 2 is already looking good, but 3 to me is like the chef's kiss, if you will. So that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. A pretty wild week, especially with earnings. Again, I did buy yesterday, and today I did sell another put for 207 for next week, just one. But yeah, that's about it. I have a bunch of puts exercising that I sold puts exercising this week that I have that will be, of course, buying me a bunch of shares, which unfortunately will make my average sitting around $230, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best either. It's it's okay, I guess. It's okay. It's whatever. Could be better, could be worse. But that's kind of what I'm setting at the very moment. My second account, of course, averages like 206 or something like that, right? So that's pretty good for that account, but it is what it is, but I'm not too worried. I'm expecting a rally. If we do get any more drops coming into early next week, I am just gonna be buying. I do think this is overall a nice base that we have formed over here, and I would be pretty surprised if we actually go much lower than 200 at this point before an actual meaningful bounce. So that's kind of what I'm currently seeing. Again, I want to make it very clear, none of this, what I say, is financial advice. Do your own research, make your own decisions, all that good stuff. But that's essentially what I'm seeing at the very moment. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about it down below. Hope you have a great weekend. And I think next week should be a fun week, especially with Apple, Amazon, and Google reporting earnings. The 3 big dogs, of course. So we'll see what that comes, or what comes with that rather. But yeah, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next week. Peace.